So tonight we're going to finish going over um, Isabella Kaluas, born Ariel Sellers. We're going over the arrest affidavit for Isaac and Lahua Kalua. So we left off at C the last time. So I'm just going to go back over that one so we can get our place again and then continue from there. Remember, IMK is Big Sis and IPK is Ariel. Big Sis also stated that she was asked to keep that secret around 2 months ago and that she knows Ariel is dead because she was there. Big Sis stated she was there because her parents woke her up. I didn't do my mic check, so if you guys can hear me, just type a one in the chat, please. And so we talked a little about how, you know what, let me go ahead and make sure my mic is still up right. Give me just 1 second. Just let me make sure it's set up right. Mic check. Okay. We talked a little bit about how who was purposely waking her up was just to terrify her. You know, she said that she was asked to keep a secret, but she wasn't really asked to keep a secret. She was forced to keep a secret under duress and under fear because she had seen what they were capable of with what they did to her sister. So it had to be set in her mind that if they could do that to her, they could easily do the same to me. And so I won't say anything. That's that smooth evil I was talking about. I'm not going to threaten you, but I'm going to make sure you understand that I have the power to do some horrible things to you. After being woken up, she went into the bathroom and saw that IPK had duct tape on her mouth and her nose and was not breathing. Lahua then filled the bathtub with water and put Ariel in it to see if she would wake up, but it did not work. Big Sis then had to help carry Ariel to her bedroom, and we talked a little bit about the psychological impact of being forced to carry your dead little sister from one room to the other and put her in a bed. Um, I don't know if they shared a bed or if they had their own separate beds, but either way, you're confined in this space with a dead body. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm creeped out by dead bodies, whether it's someone I knew or someone I didn't know. Dead bodies, just the fact that, like, I don't like going to funerals. Sometimes I'll have to show my face at one, but I don't like going to funerals because just the fact that I'm in the same room with what used to be a person, just it affects me in this weird way. So as a child, and I remember how it affected me as a child. I remember going to my great grandmother's funeral and how horrified I was, and just because I touched her and she was cold, and just the whole way that that whole thing affected me in funerals ever since then. And so you can imagine how it affected Big Sis to have seen her sister go through the things that she went through over these months. And indeed, Big Sis actually went through some things herself. We don't have a whole lot of detail on that, but Big Sister went through some things herself. So the things that she went through, the things that she saw Ariel put through, then to be forced to wake up and witness the horrible death of your sister, then carry her dead body, then be forced to sleep in the room with her dead body. And so, again, that's that smooth evil. I'm not going to threaten you directly, but I'm going to make it absolutely unmistakably clear the power that I have over you if you don't follow along with everything that I say. With regards to the bathtub, Big Sis explained that they took Ariel out of the cage and put Ariel in the bathtub, but she still did not wake up. I'm just going to take these headphones completely off. Excuse the little bit of noise, because for some reason these headphones make me yawn. Air pressure, I guess. Okay. But she still did not wake up. According to Big Sis, Lehua woke up first, then woke up Isaac at the time. Big Sis, Lehua, Isaac, and the two younger siblings were the only ones at home. And of course, Ariel, but Ariel had passed. According to Big Sis, after Lehua filled the bathtub and Ariel would not wake up, Lehua then drained the tub, and a few days later, Isaac went to Kaiser to pretend he was COVID. So he went to Kaiser, apparently a hospital or some type of emergency room or urgent care. So he went there basically saying that I have COVID symptoms. So we went through the whole thing about how under COVID protocols in some places. I know the place that I was working at the time when the pandemic struck. If you showed symptoms, then superiors had the right to send you home. Clock out right now, go home, get tested, don't come back for 2 weeks. I don't care what the test says. In some cases, you had to have actually had to take a COVID test. I know there were even doctor's offices that if you had simply had a COVID test, they wouldn't see you because I guess they figured if you had a test and you must have had symptoms, so don't come in here with your symptoms. The same on my job. If I had at any time when it got COVID tested, whether I was showing symptoms or not, the simple fact that I took the test, I wouldn't have been able to come back to work for 2 weeks. Regardless of what, even if the test came back 2 days later and said that I was not positive, I wouldn't have been able to come back to work for 2 weeks. Okay. So we talked about how he worked that plan, get your 2 weeks off, and then he took his vacation at the same time that he had accrued. So 2 weeks paid vacation to help him destroy and get rid of evidence. Big Sis stated she knew Isaac was pretending because she knows that he took off work to, quote, help mom. When asked why Isaac would need to help mom, Big Sis stated, quote, to get rid of the stuff, evidence. And we talked about that, how they probably cleaned everything that they thought could possibly be evidence or that could contradict whatever story they were planning to tell the police about Ariel going missing and just whatever. And so they did whatever they could to try to clean that up so that when the police come, what they saw would match what they were being told. Yeah, he said he had COVID, but he really didn't. Big Sis stated that Ahua bought the dog cage because Ariel would sneak around at night and want to eat because she was hungry. Big Sis stated Ariel would be hungry because Ahua would not feed her. Big Sis tried to sneak food to Ariel on occasions, but Lehua would catch them and become upset. So Lehua bought the dog cage to keep Ariel inside of it at night. Pardon me for a second. You have to be one evil son of a bitch to put a child in a dog cage, to buy a dog cage with the express intent and purpose of caging a hungry child to force this hunger upon them. It would have been a lot less expensive and a whole lot easier just to feed the kid. I would rather be reading right now that she forced this child to eat nothing but bread and water than to hear that she bought a dog cage to keep her from eating even that. Yeah, tied up and duct tape around her mouth and all kind of stuff so she wouldn't have to hear her crying. Lehua is a special kind of evil. And I'm telling you, whatever happens at this trial is really insignificant because what's coming to Lehua is coming on the other side. This is the type of thing that, I'm sorry, whatever you believe in, whether it's Jesus Christ, whether it's karma, whether it's whatever, this is the type of thing that you have to pay for this. One way or another. You have to pay for this. There is no way in the world that she can go through life or death and get away scot-free with this. And I just don't even see how there's anything on this earth that we could do to her that would be stern enough to equal up to what she did to this child. Like, who would put duct tape on IPK, quote, plenty of times? I'm sorry, Ariel, because Ariel would sneak around and eat. Big sister stated that she believes the duct tape came from Isaac's job and that Isaac had seen both Big Sis and Ariel tied up with duct tape on other occasions and did nothing. Let me say that again. Isaac had seen both Ariel and Big Sis tied up with duct tape on other occasions and did nothing. Of course he did nothing. If the duct tape came from his job, he brought it for Nahua to use for whatever it was that she was doing. That's another bit of that smooth evil, because she didn't just go to the store and buy some duct tape because she knows that electronic records would show that she at one point bought some duct tape. It would show her the batch, the day it was made, and everything else. So you go get some duct tape from your job and bring it to me so that I can use it to tie up these children. And him being the dumb duck that he is, he did exactly what she said. Not giving him a break, but I have to wonder if he wasn't abused by her as well. Because the whole vibe that I'm getting in this case is not that Isaac per se abused the children as far as starving them or whatever, but he sat idly by knowing full well what was going on and did not do a thing. That's the only time the kids got to eat is at the barbecues. The only time that Ariel got to eat is at the barbecues when other people were around. Hey, Sue. But I do believe, and I'm going to take that back what I said about Isaac, because I believe there is word out there that he actually was abusing the girls in another way. If you follow what I'm saying. So I'm not going to touch much on that because it's not in this document, but that is the word that is out there. Okay. A check of 911 calling system showed that there was no call made to 911 dispatch from the time period of August 1st, 2021 to September 12th, 2021 from either Nahua or Isaac regarding an emergency at their home. So there is no record in a month and a half time span of them ever calling 911 for anything. And that's important because one of the charges is that they failed to get them help. It deals directly with knowing that Ariel was in a situation where she needed help right now, that she was in danger and likely dying, and they did nothing to help her. So that just goes to show that if Ariel passed anytime between, we know she was still around on August 18th because she was seen on home surveillance camera. But at no time between August 1st and August 12th did they do anything at all to get this child some help with the condition that she was in. Pursuant to search warrants approved and signed by the Honorable Karen L. Homer on October 15, 2021, your affiant received medical records from the following health centers: Waimanalo Health Center, Southwest, number 2021-499. Okay, that's search warrant. That's the warrant number. Shriners Hospital warrant number, and Adventist Health warrant number, also known as CASA. The records included the time period from February 19th to September 13th, from February 2019 to September 13th, 2021. None of the records received by affiant included any visits by Ariel to either the emergency rooms or their respective health centers during the time period between August 1st, 2021 and September 13th. So, at no time during that month and a half, not only did they not call 911 to get her any help with the condition that she was in. They also didn't make any moves to take her to get any help. They did nothing in and of themselves to get her help on any level, not even making a phone call, not taking her to the emergency room, not dropping her off inside the hospital, hoping somebody will come out there and find her. I know, right? Savage! I love it. I absolutely love it, man. The above referenced events occurred in the city and county of Honolulu, state of Hawaii. Based on the facts and circumstances and positive identification of Lehua Kalua, probable cause exists for the arrest of Lehua Kalua for murder in the second degree. Wherefore, your affiant respectfully requests that based upon the facts and circumstances contained in this affidavit, a warrant of arrest be issued for Lehua Kalua for the charge of murder in the second degree, and that said Lehua Kalua be brought forthwith before this judge or detained subject to the order of this court or any other court in which the offense to which Lehua Kalua is triable for violations of various sections of Hawaii revised statutes. Further, affiant saith not. And so that is the rest of the arrest affidavit. And so we can see just how evil this woman was. Like, and Isaac too, he's a special kind of evil because he didn't give a flying flip what happened to these kids. And it really amazes me because they went through all this stuff that you have to go through for adoption, right? Tim, you got a dime, type exclamation point start and start doing the math. Sue says, is my internet being awful or is she buffering? Could be either because I'm on the road. It's probably your internet buffering. Surprisingly, today I don't even have that little pop up that tells me the Wi Fi is acting up on StreamYard. Let's see what Bautissimo is advertising today. Imagine a world where eating candy also supports your favorite streamer. Does it? At Savage says TCN. Now make it real. Really? I'm gonna have to look into that. I have no idea what Bautissimo is talking about half the time. I put in like five timers for it to say things. That's not one of them, but I didn't know it. I'll have to see what that's all about. Yes, but I heard Amish people have a very bad internet service. You go to make that horse run faster to power the internet. Oh my God. Off the internet TV, we have no clue. It really doesn't make sense why they torture these kids. It really doesn't. Because here's the thing, aside from money, they had no reason to either to get them. You know what I'm saying? And there was nothing forcing them to take the two older children. They could have just taken the two younger children. They didn't have to take Ariel and Big Sis. They could have just taken the two younger kids and been like, we don't want to be bothered with older kids for whatever reason or no reason at all. Look, we don't think we can handle more than two small ones right now. It'll be easier on us. They could have come up with 100 things to tell these people. It'll be easier on us. They're younger. It's easier for us to train them up the way that we want them to be. Blah, 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 blah. Why even go through all the effort of getting these other kids? Yeah, there's the sibling motivation to get more money, but you would have to be thinking, in order for them to treat these two girls the way that they treated them, that means they already knew off top. They didn't want them, they didn't like them, whatever. They already knew this. So for them to be able to do this wasn't a new thing. This was ongoing. You could see the steady decline of Ariel almost immediately from the moment that they got her. The first thing they did was chop off her hair. I mean, if that's the case, they could have just got two other kids from somewhere else that were siblings. Take the two younger sellers to siblings, let Ariel and Big Sister go on about their business, and then we'll find two other small kids somewhere else. It's just ridiculous, man. Like, I can't make that make sense anyway. I don't care how I twist it, flip it, roll it. I cannot make sense of that. It doesn't make sense. it was pointless for them to even get these girls. They couldn't possibly have been getting that much money. Snoop, is it true that they claimed bankruptcy? I believe I heard that, but I'm not sure. Now, Snoop is more in on all the little, like, tiny details of this case. Says within the first 6 weeks of Ariel being in that house was the first police report of abuse. Oh my God. That was the broken fingers, right? That they didn't immediately get her attention for. So that poor baby ran around with broken fingers for God only knows how long, until I'm sure they were forced to get her some help for some reason. Someone outside saw it, mentioned it. Why don't you take this kid to the doctor or something like that? I don't know if it would have been a caseworker, a teacher, or a caregiver, or what. Or maybe it was like a required doctor's appointment, for immunizations or something, and the doctor was like, hey, something's wrong with this kid's fingers. B10 says, yeah, I heard that, and that was one of the things you can't be to adopt. You can't have claim bankruptcy. But there's so much wrong with this case because you can't have a felony and foster. So even before we got to the point of adoption, they should have never been allowed to foster because Isaac Kaluas had felonies. As a matter of fact, I'm about to try to pull it up. Isaac Kaluas felonies. I'm sure I got it bookmarked somewhere. Okay, according to the records viewed by Insider in 2000, Isaac Kaluas was convicted on 4 felony charges of assault, attempted assault, and terroristic threatening, to which he pleaded guilty and served 5 years probation. So he should have never, ever, ever, ever been a candidate for fostering, let alone adoption. Okay, that's the claim that was closed within 24 hours of the report. So basically, we come, we see, we saw nothing, we close the case, whether they saw something or not. That's crazy. But then that just points back to their connections on the island. Um, I think I got rid of the file because I couldn't dig up any more on it, but Lehua held a position on a committee. Committee position. Was said that the people responsible for placing Ariel Sellers and her siblings never got fired. I don't think they did. I don't even know where I found that document, but it was a document. It listed her and several other people on some type of committee in Oahu, and I believe that it played some part in the finance committee. Is this it? But I believe that her connections through that committee or whatever else she had her hands in also played a part in them being able to foster and adopt and to get away with things and do all these random things. Yeah, there's a lot of people involved in this. Nehua and Sonny told everyone that Ariel was suffering from mental health issues and she was self-harming and starving herself, and everyone believed them. Told you, a special kind of evil. When you can just sit there and tell somebody something that doesn't make sense and they just, okay, sure. I cannot, I can believe, I want to say that I cannot believe, but unfortunately I can believe that all these people who came in and out of that house, all their family, all their friends, all these case workers, all believed that this little girl was refusing to eat to the point of starvation. You're right. Most people don't care if it's not their problem, if it doesn't directly affect them. People will see something going on. People could have seen Lehua punch that girl in the face and probably wouldn't even say anything. And that's what's sad. But I believe law enforcement and prosecution on the island has said that they're going to hold everyone who had any type of involvement or knowledge responsible before this is over. I'm real sure I heard them say that. And I pray that Lehua and Isaac are found guilty and that they throw the book at them, a couple of the books, just go get the whole Black's Law Dictionary set and just throw it at them. And then after they finish doing that, go down the line. Everybody that had any knowledge, everybody that had been to that house during the time that those children were there, who had potential to see something, all that. Everybody who came to a barbecue, everybody who, whatever. If you hung out at the park with them one day during the time that they had these children, throw the book at them. The officer was smiling during which press conference? Hold on here. Wait a minute. I must have missed something. Are you talking about Sergeant Chris Kim? We're about to, you about to tell me something here. Isabella Kaluas press conference. Let's watch this press conference and see what they're talking about. It might be this one. If not, then it might be Sergeant Chris Kim. The first one with the fat ball looking guy. This one that I clicked on, I think this is it. We're about to find out.
Good afternoon and thank you for coming.
Not this guy.
After nearly 2 months of around-the-clock work by our investigators, officers, and crime specialists, we are here to announce the arrests of Isabella Kaluas' parents, Isaac.
Okay, so this isn't it, because that's not the first one. Videos. 11:10. These are all about the arrest. You notice they got rid of him after that incident and put someone. I didn't know that. The first person that I saw do a press conference about this was Sergeant Chris Kim. This guy looks bald. He doesn't look fat. I'm going to find it eventually. If I don't find it tonight, I'm going to find it another time because I want to see that. I need every reason I can find to have righteous anger in this case, even though I don't think I can get any more angrier than I already am. Oh, that's not it. That ain't even got nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with her. See, this is the guy that I saw on the very first press conference that I saw was him. This is Chris Kim with Crime Stoppers. Oh shoot, it's not even showing the right thing. Let me go to YouTube. Yeah, this is the very first person that I saw do a press conference, and this is right during the time when they were doing the searches because he was saying how if anybody wants to volunteer to search, then they were welcome to come. They want the whole community's help and all that. I wonder if I let it play, if it'll take us to like some
live press conference right now to discuss the search for the missing 6-year-old Isabella Kaluas.
She was last seen at her home last night at her home in Waimanalo.
Yeah, now I know you couldn't have been talking about him. This is just the first guy that I saw. Now he actually was pretty good, and I even contacted him when I was trying to do the gifts for the girls thing. I contacted him through Crime Stoppers to see if he could act as like the person to receive gifts for them and take them over to like the CWS office. But they said that they didn't think it would be advisable for the police to be involved in anything like that since it is still an active and ongoing investigation into her death and disappearance with her not being HVD press conference 10/11/10/21. Okay, I think I saw that. I think I saw that in this list. Let me go back to page one. Here it is, right here. I knew I saw it. I don't think I watched this press conference before, so I'm going to watch it.
And finally, this afternoon, to the hundreds of community members who came out to help us with the initial search, including members of the military, as well as our state,
We're
local,
just a
and
few
federal law
seconds ahead of
enforcement
that mark.
partners, I also want to say a huge thank you. I would especially like to recognize the support of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In just the past few weeks, the FBI has been able to offer the homicide detail technical expertise and evidentiary analysis that was extremely valuable and far exceeded our own department capabilities. In particular, the insight provided utilized in the federal spectrum in a federal court. They have the authority and the power to do those things. But in this kind of a case where we're looking at a state court prosecution, as a department, we have to be careful what we ask them to do on our behalf. Because if we ask them to use some of those really fancy gadgets they have in the truck down in Waimanalo to help us solve things, and then it turns out that under state law we can't use that, or we needed a warrant to use that, or under the federal system they didn't, then anything we found out as a result would be out of luck, and it's nothing that we could use in court. So we were very careful from the beginning to
I see what you mean.
FBI and the rest of our federal partners and tell them, you want to help, by all means, come out, help
Your
us.
fancy gadgets.
Help us with the manhunt, help us with the search. But as far as any advanced kind of technical advice that may or may not fall under the guise of what we can do under our state authority, hold off until we're ready with our investigation to ask you for those things. So I think we managed that relationship very well.
And when did it change to murder investigation? Technically, not
technically, it actually turned into the murder investigation probably last week.
Yeah, that's fair. That's when we had some big developments.
I guess just to reiterate, how are you so sure that we're looking at a murder and no longer missing person?
Again, that's something that we definitely can talk about in the coming weeks as more information becomes available, but it's not something that we're ready to talk about just yet. Plus, please remember, even as we speak, right, we have teams of dozens of people who are combing through what we believe to be a crime scene looking for.
You're right, though. He is thinking it's kind of lighthearted, like he's talking about somebody that robbed an ice cream shop with a lollipop or something.
And we're able to talk about them, we can. But at this point, I'm sorry, I can't really share that with you.
And attorney William Harrison told us initially that they were very.
His affect is not appropriate for this type of press conference.
The very day they reported it. Is that true?
So they investigated, yeah, go ahead.
So to answer that question, they were in the beginning, the very first day, several days or weeks following that. But then at some point, they weren't.
Yeah, they probably did the best thing by getting him off the whole thing. I never saw this press conference.
To
I
announce
watched
the
the
arrest
video.
of Isabella Kalua's parents, Isaac and Lehua Kalua, for the murder of young Isabella, also known as Ariel. They were charged this morning and are being held without bail. Ariel was first reported missing on
Oh, it's
September
cool. I
13th.
think I'm just gonna watch it because
The
I've never
photo
seen
and
this one.
story touched the hearts of many in the community, and hundreds of volunteers came forward to help in the search. We thank all of you for your efforts and concern. It's clear that Ariel was loved and missed by many people. Unfortunately, what began as a search for a missing girl turned into a murder investigation focused on the Kaluas. While we are unable to discuss the details at this time, we believe that the evidence leads to the Kaluas and no one else. As a reminder, this is still an active investigation. I'd like to thank those in the community and the media who were patient with this investigation, who were cooperative with investigators, and who continue to seek the truth and justice for Ariel.
Yeah, you're right. This guy's
At this time,
attitude
I'd
just
like to
portrays
introduce the
the
special agent
heaviness
in
of this
charge of
situation,
the FBI's
as opposed to
Honolulu
old
Field
dude acting like
Office,
a clown.
Stephen Merrill. He will be followed by Major Ben Moskowitz and Lieutenant Dina Themis of the Criminal Investigation Division.
Thank you, Acting Chief. I just wanted to thank the Honolulu Police Department for their partnership. The FBI remains steadfast in our effort to work with law enforcement agencies across this area to make sure that justice is done. And again, I thank the Honolulu Police Department for welcoming us into this investigation. Any questions to the investigation should be put forth to the Honolulu Police Department. Thank you.
Yeah, they should have just left that other dude completely out of this press conference. They should have kicked him off the case. I know
Good
they
afternoon. My name
he
is
would
Ben
have been
Moskowitz. I'm the
appropriate
commander
for
of the
this.
Honolulu Police Department Criminal Investigation Division. And before I get to the rest of our announcement, I do want to share a little background information. On Monday, September 13th, 2021, at around 6:25 in the morning, HPD call takers received a 911 call from the parents at 41610 Puha Street, notifying police that their 6-year-old adopted daughter, Isabella Kalua, was missing. According to initial reports, Ariel was last seen the previous evening, Sunday, September 12th, around 9:00 p.m. when her parents put her to bed. In response to the call, HPD classified the case as a missing person and immediately mobilized a search of the area. For the next 8 days, an intensive search involving over 200 HPD personnel and between 300 and 500 community volunteers scoured the Waimanalo area each day looking for Ariel. And even after initial search of the area was complete, for the last 58 days since this was reported, dedicated community members have continued the search for Ariel. I would like to remind you that our investigation into this incident is still extremely active and is far from over. However, especially after remaining quiet about what we have learned over the last 58 days, we feel it's important to share with you what we can at this time. This morning, shortly after 7:00 a.m., members of the Honolulu Police Department's Specialized Services Division simultaneously served search warrants at Ariel's home, again at 41610 Puha Street, as well as the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard, where Isaac, the father, works, to search the home and vehicles of Lehua and Isaac Kalua. Specifically, investigators and crime scene technicians are on scene still and will probably.
You know what? You're absolutely right. And I believe that the Kaluas were counting on no one caring about this little girl to get away with what they thought they were trying to get away with. I believe that they know that since she was indigenous, that she would get less attention, that it would pretty much get swept under the rug. And once they gave that story that they were giving about how she sleeps outside and she talks to people out the window and all this other kind of garbage that they were putting, that it would be just swept under the rug as, oh, this kid ran away and there's no telling what happened to her on this island. Let's not waste our time. And I believe that just like you said, it was the social media, the smaller YouTube channels like me and Snoopmo were just getting started. We were two of the only ones that were covering her case from the beginning. It was the small Facebook groups that were bringing attention and putting the pressure on and bugging the media. What about this little girl? What about this little girl? Don't forget this little girl. And that's what really made this blow up. And I don't think the Kaluas were prepared for that.
Probably be there through tomorrow, searching for evidence related to Ariel's murder. Based on the investigation conducted by the homicide detail, we believe that Ariel was murdered sometime in the middle of August 2021 by her adopted parents, Lehua and Isaac Kalua. It's worth noting this time element is a full month before Ariel was reported to the police as a missing person. The cause of Ariel's death is still under investigation and will not be discussed today. Ariel's remains have not yet been recovered. We know that there are members of the community who have cared for and who continue to care for the well-being of Ariel and her sisters, and we're looking for witnesses who know or may have interacted with Ariel and her sisters between 2019 and August of 2021 to come forward. Also, anyone who may have seen Lehua or Isaac Kalua during August or September of this year was encouraged to contact Crime Stoppers at area code 808-955-8300. You can also dial star crime on your mobile device. You can visit www.honolulucrimestoppers.org, or you can download the P3 Tips application to your mobile device in order to submit information anonymously. You may have important information that could help us to locate Ariel. And it's important to remember that no detail at this point is too small. I would like to introduce Lieutenant Dina Tamas. Lieutenant Tamas is in charge of our homicide detail and would like to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the onset of this investigation, many people assisted us in the search for Ariel. I wanted to again thank the public, the state and city departments, the military, the FBI, and members of the Honolulu Police Department for assisting us with the search. As our investigation continued, it was determined that foul play was involved. The initial information reported by Isaac and Lehua on September 13th was false. Detectives of the homicide detail includes the missing person unit, homicide detectives, cold case unit, and the strategic enforcement detail. They have followed up on every lead and every Crime Stopper tip that has come in. Oftentimes, these follow-ups resulted in us requesting assistance from the Honolulu Police Department Specialized Services Division, the Crime Analysis Unit, and the Crime Scene Unit. Multiple items of evidence were recovered and tested. Multiple people were interviewed, and those interviews were recorded and reviewed. And hours of surveillance was also recovered and reviewed. The homicide detectives continued this intensive 8-week-long investigation alongside the city deputy prosecuting attorneys from the Domestic Violence Division. Their support was instrumental in getting us where we are today. I want to let everyone know that despite the criticism reported by some of the media, we have never stopped our investigation. Ariel was never forgotten. During the recent weeks of the investigation leading to the arrest, we requested assistance from numerous divisions in our department, the FBI special agents of the Honolulu Division, who were liaisons for the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit located in Quantico, the FBI Evidence Recovery Team, Haima Urban Search and Rescue, and anthropologist Dr. Gregory Berg. I want to thank everyone for their assistance. The cooperative efforts was essential in this investigation. The investigation is ongoing. By no means is it over. Some of the information may not be released at this time because it may hurt the integrity of the investigation. That's all I have. Thank you.
And finally, this afternoon, to the hundreds of community members who came out to help us with the initial search, including members of the military, as well as our state, local, and federal law enforcement partners, I also want to say a huge thank you. I would especially like to recognize the support of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In just the past few weeks, the FBI has been able to offer the homicide detail technical expertise and evidentiary analysis that was extremely valuable and far exceeded our own department capabilities. In particular, the insight provided by FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit into the
He should wear an undershirt with his
instrumental in helping us
uniform
to advance
too.
the investigation to where it is today. I especially want to thank Special Agent in Charge Stephen Merrill of the Honolulu Field Office for his continued support and help. Again, this is very, very much still an active investigation, and there are some things that we simply cannot talk about. But I do remain hopeful that as time goes on and this case continues to progress, that we will be able to share more details with you in the future. So with that understanding, I guess we can take a couple questions. Ma'am.
You refer to her as Isabella Kalua, but also Ariel. Can you clarify what her legal name is and what police are considering her name to be?
Sure. We believe that child was born with the name Ariel Sellers, and when she was legally adopted by the Kaluas, then her name was changed legally to Isabella Kalua. But even after that, the family, members of the Kalua family, the extended family, and her siblings refer to as Ariel. So that's why we've kind of chosen to refer to as Ariel, just for simplicity sake. Ma'am.
Are the Kaluas cooperating now that they're in custody?
So the way the judicial system works, because we have a warrant of arrest and the judicial process has begun, there's significant intervention by the police department and the prosecutor's office as well. At this point, case law prevents us from trying to interview the suspects without an attorney being present. So procedurally, they've been taken to the station. They're going to remain there until their first appearance, which I guess would be probably sometime on Friday. But until they're appointed counsel, case law says we can't talk to them. But I have no reason to believe that they're not at least cooperating with the arrest. Yeah.
Are you looking into possibly arresting other suspects who may have aided in, hiding the body or something?
So based on what we know at this point, we don't think that there are any other suspects that are outstanding that are not already in custody. That having been said, if there are members of the public who have information that implicates someone else, I'm not going to tell you we're not going to look into it. We're certainly going to take any information the public can provide us and chase, as Lieutenant Tama said, we've chased every single lead that we've gotten as far as we can. So it's not beyond the scope of possibility that the investigation could lead to that, but at this point, we don't believe that there are any other suspects besides the Kaluas.
So you said other than, so other than the Kaluas.
Other than the Kaluas, we don't currently, based on what we know, think that there are any other suspects. Yes, ma'am.
Back in September, HPD talked about items that were recovered in Bellows. Was it ever determined if those items belonged to Isabella, what those items were?
Sorry, yeah, that's a Lieutenant Tame's question.
Sorry, so to answer your question, again, at the onset of the investigation, a lot of the information we were receiving was false. So we are following up on a lot of things and revisiting a lot of items that was recovered, and we are going to try to identify them, whether it be through our lab or whether it be through witnesses. So again, that's a little bit of a hiccup in our investigation because we were, initial reporting was false.
But you did find belongings, but
We found items, but whether it belongs to Ariel hasn't been determined at this time.
there were some photos found. Did that reveal any questionable things, any other possible abuse or anything you could substantiate abuse?
The photo album that was found was determined to belong to the Kaluas family, and there was nothing evidentiary value of that. Other than that, it did belong to them.
Is there enough evidence for a conviction if a body is ever found?
That would be, I would have to defer that to the prosecutor's office at this time. There has been cases we've had with no body murder, arrest, and charges, so I'm not going to be able to answer that right now. We believe at this time that we have enough to do the warrants of arrest. So I think we're heading in a good direction when it comes to conviction.
At what suspected?
I think at the onset there was a lot of questions, and I think I did give data that did suspect foul play, but there was a lot of things. I can't even give you the exact date when we decided that. I think at any case like this, we're going to look at everything and question everything. So there were some things that just weren't adding up for us, and we just followed up with what we believed and whatever the evidence suggested to us.
I guess a question that many people have is, why now go into the property? Is there some digging going on the property? If you can talk about that, and why not do it sooner, right, within the first days, weeks?
So basically, every person has a right to their house. So you can't just go in and start searching unless you have authorization. At some point in the initial investigation, the Kaluas were both pretty cooperative, and then eventually they weren't. So to give us permission to go on their property and start searching, that wasn't going to happen. We couldn't get in touch with them, or they didn't call us back, or whatever it may be. Now, we need to get a search warrant to be able to do what we needed to do, go to the house like this morning, and that needed to be approved by the prosecutor's office as well as the judge. But again, we had a missing person, which was not a criminal case at that time, so we had to build our probable cause to get to that criminal case in order for us to do that, to get a search warrant for the premises or any other search warrant.
And which specific evidence led you folks to today's search?
Okay, that I cannot discuss because that's under investigation.
Yeah.
It's been reported that there's like an $11,000 reward. Has that reward been claimed?
Oh, so you're good. So the information that's led us to develop the case to this point did not come from Crime Stoppers. So it's my understanding that Crime Stoppers' reward is still very substantial. And at this point, we want to again continue to encourage people if they can help us to secure the conviction. That's still very much a reward that could be claimed by someone who has information that could be pivotal to the investigation.
Is that accurate? 11,000. It was 1,000 and plus the 10,000.
Yes, yeah, it's at least 11,000. Yes, ma'am.
How was this mid-August time frame determined?
Without going into too many details, the pattern of activity that we're able to detect by talking to witnesses and examining other evidence led us to believe that that's the time frame. There are a lot of indicators. Sorry, I know I didn't really answer your question and talked in a big circle. You must love that. But I can't really give you the exact. Here's how we did it, and here's exactly what led us to there, because that's still something that's very important to keep confidential at this point. Hopefully, one day we'll be able to tell you the whole story about how we determined it. But we'll put it this way: we can't find any cooperating witnesses who are going to tell us that they've seen her after them, that we can substantiate that, right?
Has there been new evidence that's been introduced and verified as of in the last couple of days?
Yes. In the last week to 10 days, some evidence has come to light, again, with the significant help of the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit. They're actually an amazing resource for law enforcement. They gave us an insight into this case that I don't think we would have probably been able to come up with on our own because of all their resources. And we gave them a bunch of evidence, and they turned it around and gave us the same evidence back, but told us, maybe look at it from this angle, or maybe when you talk to this person, talk about this. But those kinds of very slight changes to the tack that the homicide team was taking was able to create this development.
How close does HPD believe they are to finding remains, and where they're looking?
I wish I had a better answer for you. We are conducting a search of the home today and probably into tomorrow. If we're unable to locate remains there, then a big part of what we're asking for is people who have seen the Kaluas between August and September. And I know that's a brand new time frame for people to even consider, right? They may know these folks. They may have seen, I saw them a couple weeks before the daughter went missing. Well, we need to make sure and let them know now that the daughter was dead from the middle to September. So if you saw them in that time frame, we really are very interested in talking to you and hearing what you have to say that could lead us to that type of a discovery.
Do you have any possible motive? We don't know that they were facing possible bankruptcy, the wife and the husband, there's bankruptcy. Any of these things might have led you to.
I wasn't aware of the bankruptcy motive. I mean,
I don't know if that's
Lieutenant Dimas and her team probably have all kinds of information business what I know, but I wasn't aware of the financial motive. But at this point, again, because of the way the judicial system is structured, and because once the suspects are charged, which they are in this case, once they're served a warrant, we're prohibited from going in and talking to them without their attorney being present. So again, once they're court-appointed attorneys, or they hire their own attorney and they want to share information with us, let's go. Let's bring them in and talk to them if we can. But at this point, we're kind of in a window where we can't really talk to them about things.
Were they ever prevented from leaving the state?
No, not to my knowledge.
And just to double check, it's only been 2 arrests and any possibility of future arrests?
2 arrests is what we have. That's what we did this morning, right? Between 7 and 7:30 this morning, we arrested Isaac at work in Pearl Harbor, and we arrested Ligua at home in Waimanalo. And those are the only arrests that we've made. And at this point, those are the only suspects that we have.
There were other children in the Kalua home. Can you talk about what happened to them, and are they biological children, adopted children?
Sure. So it's my understanding that CWS, the Child Welfare Service, placed children in the home in the past. At some point, fairly recently, within the last year or two, at least Ariel was legally adopted by the Kaluas. And at that point, in speaking with CWS about their involvement and what their process is, because I learned a lot about CWS in this process. One of the things I learned was that once adoptions are completed, the CWS involvement in the case kind of scales way back. So they're not conducting the same level of checks or things like that that they would prior to an adoption. As far as the other children, Ariel's sisters, we know that they are in CWS custody and they're safe at this time. And CWS was apprised a few hours ago of the circumstances that we shared with you now. So we're hopeful that they'll take whatever measures are necessary to continue to protect these children.
How many sisters are there?
How many sisters did you have?
Yeah, that are, I'm sorry,
A total of
4, and they're all in CWS?
not all.
Okay. So how many sisters are in CWS custody?
I think we're going to refer you to contact CWS with those specific questions.
Did HPD find any signs of abuse prior to all of this with any of the siblings, including Ariel?
So that's, again, very much part of our ongoing investigation. And that's part of why we would like to talk to people who have seen Ariel or her sister, and I didn't misspeak, from 2019 up through August of 2021. If people know Ariel and her sisters and interacted with them, then we want to hear from them too, because those are the same kind of questions that we're asking now. We don't have really solid answers to those questions yet, but we are looking for the public's help in helping us to answer those questions as well.
So can you repeat the time frame again of when she would have been killed and what time frame you're asking for people to
Sure.
contact police?
So we are looking for people who interacted with Ariel and her sisters between 2019 and August of 2021 to contact us for that kind of background information that you're talking about. And we believe Ariel was killed by her adopted parents in August of 2021. And then approximately 4 weeks later is when we received the missing persons report in September 13th.
And you also want people who saw the Kaluas between August 2021 and September 2021 to contact.
Very much so, and that's primarily because we don't know where Ariel's remains are, or at least we haven't found them yet. And anybody who, again, not to beat this particular tangent again, but people who may have seen them and just thought, oh, that's before the time element. By talking about this time element, and specifically, we're looking for witnesses from August to September. We're hopeful that people will come forward and tell us things that might lead us to help in that investigation.
The best question for the FBI, but I just wanted to learn more about the FBI's involvement when you guys were fully involved and what has happened since.
As I mentioned, I'll defer all questions about this investigation to the Honolulu Police Department.
So we can say that the FBI has, as we said, was very instrumental in helping us basically crack the case, for lack of a better term, with the help of the behavioral analysis unit. At the very beginning of the agencies and members and people just showed up to help us search when we were looking for a missing person. They were very much active at that stage. And then as the investigation progressed and we needed technical assistance, or we needed help with evidence or analyzing evidence a certain way that we don't have the capability, they were always right there, a phone call away, and eager and willing to help at a moment's notice.
What kind of information were the siblings able to provide?
So that's something that we're not really ready to discuss at this point. Again, hopefully one day when the whole story is out there, we can talk about that a little bit more. But at this point, that's an area of investigation we can't really talk about. Sorry.
Was any reevaluation as to issuing a Miley alert, whether or not that should have been done?
No, so I don't think, at least based on the initial missing persons report or based on the information that the homicide detail developed, and as Lieutenant Davis said, and the focus behind the scenes at least started to shift from a missing persons investigation into something that turned out to be a lot more sinister. I don't think there was ever a time during that period, and please correct me if I'm wrong, where we suspected that that Ariel had been abducted. And that's one of the key kind of elements that would trigger the Miley alert. Is that fair? Okay. The other thing I wanted to kind of pause and talk with you a little bit about, and it might give you some insight into like how we work and maybe answer another question that you may or may not want to ask. But we all know that in order for it to be effective at preventing and solving crime, police have to have the trust of others. It's also no secret that the news media and certainly certain community groups have been very forthcoming with criticism about our efforts or lack of efforts, as the case may have been. And there have been some headlines in the past month that it's been frustrating from our side to read in a certain way. I just want to give you some insight into how we operate, right? So for example, there's 3 examples. These are headlines that I was able to Google search yesterday or today. A family of missing 6-year-olds say not enough is known about her disappearance nearly a month later. A missing girl's loved ones say they're
My bad, guys. It crashed, but I'm getting it right back up. And I hear my little pepper tapper.
example. There's 3 examples. These are headlines Google search yesterday or today. Family of missing 6-year-old say not enough is known about her disappearance nearly a month later. Missing girl's loved ones say their request for update board. And missing Waimanalo girl not forgotten on her 7th birthday. So her 7th birthday was this past weekend. So as a community member, right, and we all are, I understand the frustration. Unfortunately, sometimes in order to solve a case, especially a case like this one, where we're given one public story that we pretty quickly learn is not the case, certain details of the investigation cannot be shared as freely as we would like. And because of the need for secrecy, it could very well look from outside like Ariel had been forgotten, or that not enough resources were being devoted to finding out what happened to this poor little girl. So I'm here to tell you today that nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, even us prematurely, had we revealed in the last day or two that instead of investigating missing persons, we were investigating a murder, that may have interrupted the flow or prevented the progress that we were very recently able to make that led us to crack the case. So it frustrates us as well that a lot of times, we face scrutiny and we face headlines that make it look like we're not doing anything or that we've forgotten or we're not talking to anyone. And I know that's a trust factor, but I'm here to tell you again, hundreds and thousands of hours have gone into this case, and poor Lieutenant Davis and her crew have not slept in days. But we're to the point now again where we wanted to just share with you we are working on things, right? And as the case continues to develop and continues to unfold, when more things come up, where if we can share them with you, if we're past that point in the investigation where we need those things to, do other parts of the investigation, then by all means, we're absolutely willing to talk about them as we become available to do so.
So did the FBI offer services in the beginning that maybe didn't utilize initially?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the FBI did exactly what we asked them to do, which was show up and help us look, right? The FBI, and it's kind of a delicate balance because the FBI has a lot of very powerful investigative tools that when utilized in the federal spectrum in a federal court, they have the authority and the power to do those things. But in this kind of a case where we're looking at a state court prosecution, as a department, we have to be careful what we ask them to do on our behalf. Because if we ask them to use some of those really fancy gadgets they have in the truck down in Waimanalo to help us solve things, and then it turns out that under state law we can't use that, or we needed a warrant to use that, or under the federal system they didn't, then anything we found out as a result would be out of luck, and it's nothing that we could use in court. So we were very careful from the beginning to talk to the FBI and the rest of our federal partners and tell them, you want to help, by all means, come out, help us look through the bushes, help us with the manhunt, help us with the search. But as far as any advanced kind of technical advice that may or may not fall under the guise of what we can do under our state authority, hold off until we're ready with our investigation to ask you for those things. So I think we managed that relationship very well.
And when did it change to murder investigation? Technically, technically, it actually turned into the murder investigation probably in last week.
Yeah, that's fair. That's when we had some big developments.
I guess just to reiterate, how are you so sure that we're looking at a murder and no longer missing person?
Again, that's something that we definitely can talk about in the coming weeks as more information becomes available, but it's not something that we're ready to talk about just yet. Plus, please remember, even as we speak, right, we have teams of dozens of people who are combing through what we believe to be a crime scene looking for evidence. So I don't have any idea what they found, what they're going to reveal, and those are all things that as they come up and we're able to talk about them, we can. But at this point, I'm sorry, I can't really share that with you.
And Attorney William Harris put their home to investigation like the very day they reported it. Is that true?
So they investigated, yeah, go ahead.
So to answer that question, they were in the beginning, the very first day, several days or weeks following that. But then at some point, they weren't. And we needed to address that as well. But yeah, that was initially they were. They did open their homes initially to us, provided us statements. But then as the weeks passed, there was no call back to us.
And you said those statements were false?
The very first statement on September 13th was false.
From both parents?
I can just tell you what was reported at this time. What was initially reported was that she had left her home in the middle of the night, and when they woke up, they didn't see her, and they thought she had either walked away.
And that was from their surveillance video or something?
That was just what they reported. That's all I can say at this time.
And when you're talking about surveillance, is that your HPD surveillance?
We have recovered multiple surveillances from whether it be neighbors, streets, businesses, from multiple locations.
Can you talk about how difficult it is to know that a young child in our community is allegedly murdered by the parents?
It's very difficult. I think it affects every one of us in the Hong Police Department. I think it affects everyone in the public. But at the same time, we have the heavy burden of responsibility of trying to find out what happened. So we can't cloud the lines. We have to do the right thing to bring justice. So it is very difficult. And many of us take it home, and our families have to be supportive of us. So yes, it is very difficult.
And sorry, one more note on that. Thank you. I did speak with CWS today, and they asked me to share with you that if there are members of the community who suspect child abuse or neglect, either in their family members or neighbors or people that they work with, that they're encouraged to call a statewide hotline. And this is a hotline that CWS has set up for long-standing. It's staffed 24/7, and the child abuse and neglect statewide hotline number is 1-888-380-3088. So CWS did ask us to pass that along if the opportunity arose. Right?
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. It's on my post-it. There we go. 1-888-380-3088. And that's the Hawaii Child Abuse and Neglect statewide hotline. Okay. Thank you guys very much. We look forward to sharing more information with you as it becomes available.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so that was really all I wanted to share on this one. That press conference is actually kind of a bonus because I've never seen that one before, so I just wanted to watch it with y'all. I will be back at 9 o'clock. I'm going to set up for the next live. There's new information that's come out in the Emmett Till case, and I want to share that with y'all. That is a very old case, but it is still a very important case. Um, and they've had a lot going on in that case over the last few years. And so the thing that I saw in the headlines today just really, I don't know. I'm going to put it out there, and we're going to go over it together and see what we all think about it. So I will see y'all in about 55 minutes. Thanks for joining, and see y'all later.